Hello everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. I'm pretty sure that's not how you say his name, but hopefully it doesn't matter. So yeah, what this book is actually kind of like about. This book is like, obviously, Feel Good Productivity. It's about like having fun while being productive and like enjoying your life, which is kind of like an interesting concept because I feel like a lot of people like they think like productivity it's gotta suck and you just gotta like push through it, and you know it's not fun, so you just gotta learn to like deal with that. And I think that's like the common theme like on social media is that if you don't want enough, then that's why you're not doing it. You just need to try harder and want it more. And this book really comes at it from the opposite angle, where it's like, what's stopping you from doing something? Like, why don't you want to be productive? And so it's very counter to a lot of stuff that you see, and it's one of like the main themes in this book. Is the reason why it's called Feel Good Productivity, and it's kind of what Ali calls his philosophy of feel good, and that actually improves your productivity. So yeah, it was definitely one of the key themes of what's stopping you, rather than how to get yourself to do something. It's looking at the things that make it hard for you and trying to make those things more enjoyable. I'm just looking at my little notes. But yeah. So why is having fun actually important? This is something that when I was like listening to, I was like, why do I want to have fun? I just want to achieve my goals, la di la la. And I'm like, why am I so depressed? But side note. So why is it actually important to feel good when doing? Ellie kind of breaks it down into like 3 different reasons. Well, it's not really 3 different reasons, but it's like a little process. So he says that when you feel good, that actually energizes you. Interesting. Then when you're energized, you're more productive. Well, this makes sense. It's kind of like, but then how do I actually feel good? And he has lots of different ways for that, and I'll kind of like go a little bit into that. But I found this super interesting because what he was basically saying is the more fun you have, the more productive and actually focused you'll be. And he kind of laid out these studies where, well, he didn't lay out them, he cited these studies where basically people were like told to watch a movie that made them feel good, happier, and there was like a sad one as well. So it was kind of like a happy movie and a sad movie. And the one who had watched the uplifting, motivational, happy movie, they all did like an intelligence test basically afterwards. And the ones who had watched the happy movie performed much better. They had more creativity, more focus, more persistence. So they vastly outperformed the people who were feeling sad, blah, and not enjoying it. And this is like super interesting because I'm like, well, I just want to do what I need to do to like get the results I want. But like what he's saying is that you need to enjoy it so that you can get the maximum results. So I was like, okay, it's interesting. So that was kind of why he said having fun is important. And there was a few other things like burnout. He basically says that whenever you're not having fun, you're moving towards burnout because you're employing like mental energy to do something. So like, you know, you go into the gym and you hate this particular workout, like loathe it, but you exert so much discipline and willpower to force yourself through that, and eventually that will tax your mind so much that you can't continue doing that, and then you'll reach burnout and fatigue. And what he's saying is basically one of the main things that make people successful is not actually how hard they do something, but how long. Which was interesting. He had something else as well about success. Oh, another thing he said was that people who are successful love their jobs, and a lot of people think that they're successful so they love their jobs, but it's actually the inverse. They did all these studies, and basically the more you love your job, the more successful you are, which actually makes sense because you'll try so much harder. But it's these dumb concepts that we don't think of. Well, not dumb, but it's these concepts that we don't think of that make, these concepts that are like so obvious, but we think, oh, we can't have fun because we just got to do boring stuff. But it's like, how can you make that fun? And so that's probably one of his main questions that he kind of states in the book. He has lots of different methods for like trying to do that, but he always like comes back to the statement like, was a statement. Ask yourself, how would this be if it was fun? And I've been asking myself that question every day now. But a few of another ways that he kind of said to you can do this is, there was like 3 different things I think he said. First one, what was the first one? Adventure, like make it an adventure. So like, how can you make whatever you're doing exciting? Like, for example, like if you're studying, like go to a coffee shop or something and kind of make it new and fresh, because adventure means you're like in the unknown, you're like open to everything around you, and it's just so much funner. So like making your life exciting, or like even reframing how you're doing something. So if you're studying, you could look at it like, you know, I'm a scientist dissecting this information. And as stupid as this, not I say stupid, but like as this like inconsequential as this sounds, like it can actually really change your mindset around something and be super useful. Another thing he said was friends, and accountability through that. So he said it's very important to choose like the types of people you're around. But an example he uses for studying, I'm using because I'm studying right now, you can go onto like online websites where basically, you know, there'll be like 20 different people and you're all just like studying for an hour together. You're not talking, you're not doing anything, but you're just there together. And this thing of having community and people can make it so much more engaging and motivating. And, you know, sometimes I'll have a 5-minute speech to start your study and you'll kind of get in that groove and focus. And that's really good for accountability, but actually just having fun, because you know you're doing it with people and you feel part of something. So that was another method he had. I think there's quite a few other things, but I'm going to move on to the next kind of part that he talks about. Well, the part that there's so much in this book that I'm not covering. But the part that really stood out to me, one of the parts was goal setting. So, you know, in a lot of the productivity everything space, there's this concept called SMART goals. So if you've never heard of what SMART goals are, it's an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. So he basically talks about how goals are not actually that useful. Like a lot of times we've been like told that goals are like the most important thing to have. But basically what he says is there's this concept called intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So it's kind of confusing, like the words sound similar, but intrinsic is like an internal desire. So for example, like I want to get fit and I'm so inspired. So like nothing's going to stop me. And I'm just like, I'm going to go for a run. This is so good. I love doing this. So that's more like an intrinsic like thought or desire to grow, but then it's also like intrinsic enjoyment. For example, like I really like cooking, it just gets me in the right headspace, and this is something that requires no energy to do. It actually gives you energy because it's just inborn desire within you and it feels so good. Then we have something called extrinsic, which is this is external goals. Like for example, I want to get an A+ on my exam, and I want to get A+ on everything, and I want to be 100% A grade student. And this kind of goal can be somewhat intrinsic, but usually, most of the time, it's not. It is an external goal. Another probably better example for this is extrinsic. I wouldn't say goal, but motivation would be like, oh, my parents want me to be successful, so I have to do X, Y, Z, work in a professional job. So this is an extrinsic motivation. You feel no real desire to that, but if you feel duty bound. So basically what he says is goals actually put you into this outside searching goal rather than focusing on the process and enjoying that. So this is a little bit like complicated the way that I'm explaining it, but basically you want to be like inspired to do what you're doing, and basically goals are like this artificial construct that's not really actually motivating you, even though people think like I've got to set goals to achieve what I want. You need goals to like decide what you need to move towards. Like he doesn't say goals are bad in that way. Like he's talking about like have ideas and things that you want to progress towards, but you've got to make it like actionable and process focused. So what instead of SMART goals, he lays out this concept NICE goals. So what a NICE goal is, and then I have to remember it, is near term. So near term basically means like instead of being like I'm gonna get A plus on all my exams, you're like, well, I'm gonna study for an hour every night, and make that my goal. So that's the N for nice. And then input based is kind of similar. It's basically like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna do that? So near term is basically like how close that, like, I'm gonna do this in the next week. And then input based is like what input you're gonna put in, like how much time. And then the next one is C, which is controllable. And this one I'm like a little bit like, I'm not really sure what he means by that. But I think he just means that like it's, for example, like if you have this goal of like an A plus, I'm gonna be an A plus student. You can't really actually control that. That's the teacher's choice. So that wouldn't be a nice goal because it's not within your control. Or likewise, you're like, I'm gonna post a YouTube video and have 1 million subscribers. Like most time you're probably gonna have 1 view, and that's literally it, and your grandmate will be watching, you know. So like that kind of concept. So it has to be within your control and not something that's like out of your control. Another example would be like fitness. You're like, I'm gonna be in this like amazing shape or whatever, but like you can't really control your body like that all the time. Like you can do the things that make your body healthy and whatever, but you can't like just suddenly but like gain 10 pounds of muscle or lose a bunch of fat. Like it just doesn't work like that. I mean, like you can do things that move you to that direction, but you can't literally just achieve that exact outcome. So that's the C. And then the final one, E, nice, is probably the most important, and that's energizing. So is that goal like actually bringing you energy? And I think this is like a really interesting concept. Like when you do something and it gives you more energy, so you come out excited and like wanting to do that more. Like I get this with teaching. Like every time I teach, I'm like, this is so fun. I love this. And I'm just like, I could do anything now. Even if at the start I was like, oh, I feel crap, you know. So that's an example of something that's energizing for me, and it's not really work, even though it is technically work. So this is his concept of nice goals, which I find super interesting. Right, that, you know, normal goals aren't actually the most productive use of our time, even though they are good to have long-term kind of ideas of what we want. Having like these external goals is really just like an artificial construct that doesn't truly help us in our lives. So yeah, I would say probably that's the end of everything I have to say about this book. I would highly recommend it. I would say it's definitely, contrary to a lot of stuff you read, I think it is like a very thought-provoking book. I would say where it kind of comes in is it's a very intelligent book. It's really working again, kind of how I said at the start, on like the resistance that you have to doing stuff. So like if you like hate like studying, but then like how can you make this fun? You can do it with friends, you can listen to good music, rather than like I just got to try harder. So it's coming at a very different concept. And I think through this whole framework of how can I make this fun, there's definitely still an element of discipline needed. Like it's not like, oh, you just like have to like enjoy everything you do. Like, I mean, that is the kind of theme of the book, but that's not really what it's about. It's about like still using discipline, but using discipline to create joy within your life, rather than like, I've just got to do this and I hate it, and how do I like get through this like terribleness of this is so hard and boring and blah blah blah. It's like using discipline to go towards like what you want, you know. Maybe going to the gym, it's a little bit hard, like sometimes you don't feel like it, but then you go to the gym and you like listen to good music and you enjoy it. Maybe you just, instead versus like using discipline, just going to the gym and like doing a workout you completely hate, like figuring out like how you can make that fun, but still using that discipline to like do that, because everyone like has to use that a little bit, but just doing it as little as possible, because that can be draining. Yeah, hopefully that kind of makes sense. This is a very, very rambly video, but yeah, so yeah, highly recommend, and I think that's pretty much it, what I have to say. So I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, follow my next video. Sorry, I just got stressed for a second. I'll put a link to my next video that I post, and yeah, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you another time, or not see you, but hopefully I'll post another video, and yeah, alrighty, bye.